Montreal. So it's a deux pour un.
Yeah.
Oh, double dipping. I like it.
Double
Yeah,
dip.
I like the fact that you both have the same background. It's like you're in the it's like the Matrix or something. It's
It's
That's
yeah,
right. We have the same haircut and the same background
we do.
you guys
and
are
everything.
winning.
You know, there's a picture of me, and I'll send it over to you later, Jeremy, of me and Wolf backstage at the Metropolis in Montreal, sitting side by side, smiling for the camera. And the number of people that have asked me if those are wax figures. because we look because we're not moving, and anyway, so I'll send you that picture later.
We don't have a Madame Tussauds in Montreal, no.
No, but anyway, welcome to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon on the Jeremy White Show. We are here to talk Too Mean to Die, Wolf. I'm going to start off with this. What exactly is an Accept album? What sound makes it an Accept album? Because here you've got a whole new crew. You've got new members recording. What makes this Accept in terms of sound?
You tell me. I think it sounds like Accept. That's what everybody seems to think. And I've been often wondering about that because, I mean, really, in all these years and decades by now, we've changed about just about everything. Instruments and sounds and equipment and even producers and even like lead singers. And it still sounds like Accept. So I guess it's the way we write the songs and
Yeah.
the tradition sort of gets carried forward. So yeah,
Or maybe it comes down to your guitar playing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I think you are the sound of Accept. As soon as you hit that first note, you know, you listen to Mean to Die, and it's that guitar tone, it just sounds like Accept right off the bat. So I think it's safe to say that you are the sound of Accept in a way.
Yeah, but you can say that. I can't say that about myself. How does that sound? You know.
Of course you can.
Thank you.
Jeremy, I know you love talking guitars. Go ahead and ask about the guitars because he's our geek, our resident geek on guitar.
All right, let's geek out.
Yeah, you know, well, that's what I was saying. You know, as soon as you hear that first note on "To Mean to Die," it's like, you know, you got that instantly recognizable, you know, really crunchy, distorted, you know, scoop the mids a little kind of Accept tone. You know, and like I said, that's kind of like the sound of Accept, and it's kind of what we come to know. You know, one of the first records when I was getting into radio was, you know, I was playing like Blood of the Nations and like Teutonic Terror on the radio, and like,
Right.
yeah, and I love those sounds, and I sort of went from that record, I went backwards and sort of listened to the discography from there, and now listen to this new stuff. It still sounds fresh as anything that you've done because, like I said, I think it just sounds like Accept. So when you go
Sweet.
to when you play that guitar, you know, that guitar tone, is there in your mind, do you go in with it thinking I can't sound like any other guitar player, I have to have my identifiable tone?
I think it sort of happens automatically. The way that I play, the way that I like to adjust things. You know, if it doesn't sound, I'll fiddle with it until it sounds right to me. But it's not really something that you can write down or analyze or really. Yeah, it's a gut feeling kind of thing. You know, I know when it sounds right, but I don't really make a conscious effort of it, and it's nothing that I plan. It just sort of happens. That's the way I like things, and that's how I do it. You know,
Right.
it's gets my style in a way.
Are you of like the school of thinking that, you know, tone doesn't come from the amp or the instrument, it comes from the player?
Unfortunately, that's damn true. I mean, if you gave my guitar to somebody else, it would sound different, and vice versa. If I take somebody else's guitar, it still would sound a lot like me. And it's not so much even only the hands, it's also what you play. That's a lot of times people ask me, how do you get that tone of balls to the wall, that riff? Da, da, da. Well, a lot of it is that damn riff. I mean, you can play that on a lot of different instruments with a lot of different sounds, and it's still, it's got a certain, if you play it the way I played with the open strings and this and that, it's going to sound a certain way every time. So it's a lot of times it's the riff itself that has a sound.
So how do you write a riff then? You just sitting around, just noodling on the guitar, like, you know, Too Mean to Die. Like, how'd you come up with that?
I had the title first, and I wrote the song, and I had a bunch of riffs. I mean, riffs. I can kill you with riffs. I've got riffs all day long. I've got a million riffs somewhere, and it's never been a problem for me. I mean, I just sit down and noodle something, and there's a riff, boom, and next 30 minutes later, there's another riff, and there's another riff, and I've got riffs until the cows got home, but come home. It's just always the difficult part is then what do you do with that riff, and where does it go from there, and how do you sing on it, and where's the drum beat, and where's the where's the arrangement, and where's the song? You know, riff is just a riff. It's just a stepping stone, and it's fun to do. I mean, riffs. I can, like I said, riffs. I have riffs.
Yeah, and a lot of songwriters have actually said that. You know, Mitch and I, we've been talking to a lot of songwriters. Desmond Child, you know, he said to us that 99% of the big hits that he's written with Bon Jovi and Kiss and all these artists, he was saying that a lot of the time it starts with a title. You know, you get a title, you know, you give love a bad name, and then you come up with a melody. How can I sing this awesome sounding title? So and it's interesting that you said that, you know, you had the title for this song first. So does that happen a lot for you in your songwriting process?
It happens more and more, and it's always easier for me because like you just said, a title or the words, they want to be sung in a certain rhythm, and that kind of dictates a little bit of how you go about it. And I actually like having on this album there's a song The Undertaker where that was written musically after the lyrics were done.
Wow.
It's one of the rare occasions. And I wish I would have the luxury more often where you have a complete set of lyrics, because when you read the lyrics, they kind of bounce in a certain way, and that kind of dictates, that inspires you to a certain tempo. And also the lyrically from the content, it kind of inspires you musically. You know, in this case, it was The Undertaker, so it can't be a happy, cheery song. It needs to be somewhat spooky.
I thought it was about the wrestler at first, and then I listened. I was like, okay, no, not about the wrestler.
It's not about the wrestler. Wolf, let me ask you about promoting an album in this context, because normally, you know, the album comes out, and now it's January 29th, not the 15th, and you go on tour and you do the interviews. That's going to be disturbed or disrupted this time around because you're not going to be able to go out on tour right away. So do you have to come up with a whole new way to promote the album, or you just sort of throw it out there and hope people find it? How do you make people aware of this if you can't go and play in Paris and Germany and, you know, New York City?
Yeah, we just throw it out there and hope that it sticks, you know, sticks to the wall.
That's the way to do it, right?
That's what we do. Exactly. Yeah, that's how you do it. No, I mean, first of all, you do all these interviews, you know, you've got all these new outlets now. I mean, websites, and I've done, I don't know how many interviews now, but it's way over 100 now, just to give you an example. So there's so many more people that even talk about this podcast and social media. There's a whole variety of things we do nowadays. But you're right. The main thing was always the tour, which is always questionable. Do you make the album to promote the tour, or do you do the tour to promote the album? So in the best case scenario, each promotes the other. And now that we don't have that, so I don't really have an answer for it. It's the first time ever that we have an album out and no tour. And time will tell what this does, whether the album sales are just going to tank now, whether they go through the roof because people have nothing else to do but listen to this album, because they all sit at home and they're desperate for a new Accept album. I don't know. Time will tell, man.
It's like hit or miss, right? You just can't really guess at this point.
And you can't really win. And then the other thing, what's the option? You wait until you can tour again, but when is that going to be? We don't really know when that is, and we could basically just sit on this album for another year. And is that really better than releasing it now?
Not really.
I mean, nobody knows. I think it's better to have it out now so people can enjoy it, and at least they can be in quarantine and do some headbanging.
Yeah, you see, I think the answer lies somewhere in between for fans like myself to have a new Accept, a new Michael Schenker, a new Thunder. I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm thrilled. I get to sit at home and listen to all this great new music. But for the bands, you've heard the music before, so you're not hearing anything new, and you don't get to be on stage. So we kind of win, and you kind of Well, you get to make another new album. That's
Yeah,
do another one.
Yeah, but
Get back to work.
really, I mean, is it going to be really so bad if we go out and say a year from now? Because right now our headline tour for this album is scheduled for January 22, which
Wow.
is a whole nother year from now. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but it's still going to be the first time that we play these songs live, so it's still going to be exciting, and I think still a reason to go out and see the show. I mean, it's just going to be delayed. I mean,
Yeah.
it just never happened that way. It's just odd.
It's odd. Yeah, and as a fan, listen, by January of 2022, I am going to be thrilled to see you in Montreal, or quite frankly, I'm going to be thrilled to see anything in Montreal. I'll go see a juggler at this point. Quite frankly.
Go see a mime.
Yeah, I'll go see a mime.
I wanted to ask you, there was a headline recently where you did an interview and you sort of claimed that Accept was the first metal band to come out of Germany. And it kind of upset a lot of fans of the Scorpions in the sense that, they were like, the Scorpions, they were the first German metal band. What are you talking about? Now, Mitch, I know you're a huge Scorpions fan,
Correct.
and I don't necessarily consider them a metal band. When I think of Accept,
They're not.
I think metal. Scorpions, they're not a metal band. They're a rock band.
Yeah, and before Wolf answers, listen, Scorpions in the 70s were almost a psychedelic rock band. If you listen to Fly to the Rainbow and all that, and then they got into more of a Jimi Hendrixy kind of thing. They're not a metal band, and I love them. Listen, one of my favorite bands of all time, but they're not a heavy metal band. Accept is a heavy metal band.
I would say we were always heavier than the Scorpions.
Yes.
So I mean, the Scorpions were huge and successful, but I didn't say we're the biggest band. I just said we're the first heavier band to come out. And just around the time that heavy metal was really born and the term came into existence, I would say we were right there. There was the new wave of British metal, all those bands, and then there was Accept in Germany around the same time, releasing Breaker and Restless and Wild, and that was right in the middle when it all started. And the Scorpions were over in America doing their radio rock, whatever, mega shows, all good, but they weren't really part of that scene.
And I'll tell you where I noticed it. Growing up in the 70s for myself, I was listening to Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and Kiss. And then Kiss comes with a little band called Accept to the Montreal Forum, I guess in 84?
84.
Right?
84. Swear to God. I remember it.
It was
10 years before I was born.
10 years before you were born. But I was there, and this band comes out.
Scary right there.
Right? And listen, yeah, exactly. But there was not a lot of MTV and stuff going on. Yes, there were video channels, but Canada was a little bit behind. And this band comes out, and they just pounded me for, 45 minutes. And I went, oh, this is not Kiss. This is not Aerosmith. This is something, Restless and Wild. This is a whole different thing. By the way, any memories of that Kiss tour? Was it just the Canadian dates? Yeah, let's hear some of those memories.
No, I definitely remember it because it was a huge step in our career, because it was the first time we ever came outside of Germany. We ever went overseas to America, and we'd never seen anything on that scale. Up until then, we'd done European shows. We supported, I believe, Iron Maiden here and there. We'd seen some bigger shows, and we played some bigger shows, but not on the scale of like that. We're talking arenas every night, these ice hockey rink arena things with forklifts and big productions and multiple tractor trailers and like
it was the first proper major tour that you did.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, and the professionalism and the scale of everything, and even the way that the Kiss treated us was really nice. But I also remember we had to fight like hell for the audience. It was tough to win these guys over. The Kiss fans were Kiss fans. They weren't there to see anybody else. They were really like, huh?
Listen,
convince me, huh?
That was me. I agree. But it was also just because musically,
it was fighting.
Yeah, but musically you were turned up to 12. Kiss wasn't at 12. Kiss is a rock band. You were, and it was just like, oh. And that guitar playing, and of course Udo, and it was just like, whoa, okay, this is something to behold. And then of course I saw the videos on Much Music, and I was like, okay, I like this, I'm in. But you're right, I wasn't there for you. I admit it,
Yeah, I remember we never had to fight quite so hard, but we we judged the night by, well, did we get them or didn't we? Towards the end, was everybody into it? Were their arms up? Were they like singing along? Were they doing the thing or were they not? And usually they were. But it would take you a few. I mean, I remember going out there, first few songs, three songs, it was like people still coming in, drinking their soda, sitting down, and it was like that.
Well, hey, listen, at
least
least
for me, because I wasn't there, right, for that kind of scene, and I grew up in a world where like everybody just, if you're going to a concert, you probably like the 3 bands that are on the bill. Whereas back in the day, I hear all these stories about like fandoms having this competition of like, oh, you can't pay attention to the opening band because you're there for the headliner and that's it.
Oh,
you gotta see them and only. And it's so weird to like even picture that now,
No, listen,
it was also a time. It was different times in the regard that there was usually a main act and then a sort of unknown opening act, and that was fine. And that gave the opening act a huge chance because if you would make it on that tour, you would, gain a new fan community. Blah blah blah. Nowadays, it's always these packages where even the opener is like, successful bands and co-headlining. No big act takes a chance on a little band anymore nowadays, but back in the 80s that was common. That was great.
And I really think that was the social media of the day because you didn't have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram for anybody to discover you. If the magazines were writing about you or if Kiss or Van Halen wasn't taking you out on the road and expose you to their fan bases,
Yeah, you're right. If Accept hadn't played that Kiss show, I would not have known, except for another maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years, as much music was starting to develop. I might not have known who they were, but that was the Twitter of Accept.
Sorry, I messed up your life that way. Sorry.
No, you did good, and then we got put into the Wax Museum. It was wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you just real quick about Mark, because the fan base loves Udo, and they loved Udo for a long time. And then Blood of Nations drops, and Mark sings, and you hear Teutonic Terror, and it's a pandemic. Nice that you wrote a song about it. And you just go, oh, okay. Now they're serious. This because I love Mark. I think he's the best singer you've ever had, and I don't mean to insult anybody. I just love his vocals, and I think it's just perfect for the music and perfect for the songs.
As do I.
Yeah. Was there any trepidation in changing and getting and having a new voice, because not a lot of bands are successful? I want to hear the original. Oh, yeah. What has he brought to you, and what has he meant to your career? Because I love him. I think he's fantastic.
Well, he was a game changer in the fact that he enabled us to have Accept at all. Without him, there wouldn't be any Accept now, because Udo always said, not going to work with you guys. Not interested. Thank you very much. I got my own band and fuck you. Well, I don't want to say that because it gets taken out of content. I can read it on Blabbermouth again. All right, never mind. I didn't say that. But you know what I mean. It was like basically not interested. So we said, so what do we have to lose? Let's take a chance on this guy, because Mark sounded like amazing and perfect right out of the gate. When we first met him, the first 10 minutes, we knew this could be our guy. And we took a chance and said, why wouldn't it work? I mean, basically said, if this doesn't work, it's never going to work with a different singer. And then we surely give it up. But it sounded too good to be true because it felt so right, if you know what I mean. So we said, yes, it's going to be an uphill battle. And yes, fans are not going to want him. But we'll take a chance and we'll see if we can't make it happen. If we just write good songs, it should be possible. So, and 5 albums later, here we are with a 5th album in a row. And it's very consistent and very... I think this is the most successful period in our lives, I'd say, because it's really solid and the albums all feel good, and including this brand new one. So yeah, I'm feeling as good as ever.
Yeah, and Jeremy, you're a big Van Halen fan. We always talk about the David Lee Roth era and the Sammy Hagar. To me, this is the same thing going on here, because if you just went out on tour and did nothing but Blood of Nations up until Too Mean to Die, only those songs, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I was, 15 getting into radio, I was doing my rock show, and, that record came out, and listening to a song like Teutonic Terror and like, Blood of the Nations, those huge riffs and the vocals, like that was my Accept. And then I went backwards. So it's kind of like the Dave and Sammy situation, right? You got your Dave fans, the hardcores from day one, then you got the people that that them later on. So Mark, to me, that's my accept, you know? And so when I heard these two first singles, I was like, this is awesome, because this is what I know and like.
Yeah, and I mean, the day might come that when we only play new songs. I don't know. We haven't quite done that yet, but you know, I don't know. There might be a day when we don't play Princes of the Dawn and Fast as a Shark and Balls. I don't know, but so far we always have, because I mean, there's still enough old fans in the audience that want to hear those classic songs. So I don't know, but it's definitely a luxury problem if we have good new albums, and I think that is what fans appreciate. I mean, because we are really putting in the effort. We're really trying to write albums that are relevant and as good as the stuff we've done back then. And why shouldn't we, quite frankly? Why should we just do something half-assed and say to ourselves, well, nobody's going to care anyhow. People just want to hear the old stuff. Yeah. No, I think if you write some good new stuff, people want to hear it.
Yeah, and that's what I like, because a lot of bands who have changed singers, they'll go back and they'll do a re-recording of, and they'll do these albums, and you haven't done that, and it's like, yeah, no, they're proud of what they're doing now, and they're moving forward. In terms of writing new music, though, do you listen to what's going around in terms of what's happening in the clubs and what's happening somewhere else, or do you just write accept music, and that's it, we don't care?
I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue about what's going on out there in the real world. Honestly, I don't have any CDs. I don't listen to anything. I don't know who people are. I mean, it's kind of funny, honestly. I mean, it's bizarre, and they almost make fun of me always, because I don't have a clue about anything. I mean, they're always chit-chatting about these artists and that artist and that, and what do you think of that record? And they listen to all this stuff, and that the band and other people, friends, they all talk amongst themselves when I'm like the strange guy that sits on the side, because I don't know what they're talking about. I never listen to anything, honestly. I mean, I know my basic stuff, of course. I know some things, but I don't know much, honestly, and I don't try to. I don't have any interest. I'm writing accept stuff, and I live in my own cave.
Yeah. Well, and you got your creative cave, because you're also doing the photos and the woodworking, I believe, right?
Well, carpentry. Yeah, I'm not the woodworker. A woodworker almost sounds like a guy who's got I don't know, builds furniture and rocking chairs. I'm not doing that, but I do stuff around the house. I do carpentry. I like working with my hands, fixing things. Yeah.
So it is important for you to stay creative then, because a lot of bands, and we know who we can name, they've stopped making new music. They go do the greatest hits tours, and they play the 15 songs that everybody's known for 40 years. Talk to me a little bit about staying creative and why it's important to always have fresh product like Too Mean to Die, and not go do the Balls to the Wall album tour, and not go do the greatest hits tour.
And the 30th anniversary and the 25th anniversary of people always ask that every year. Are you going to do a 25th release of this, 30? I mean, we could do an anniversary thing every year, because something came out always a certain amount of years ago. So, but we always try to stay away from it, because it kind of, I think it puts that stamp of nostalgia on you, that you're sort of just living off the old days.
Right.
And I think I'm not ready for that. I mean, I still got enough stuff in me and ideas. Like I said earlier, I think when we set out to do this thing with Mark, we said we're going to do it properly. We're going to make new albums. And why shouldn't we? Because we did it back then. And why shouldn't we do it now? I mean, there's no reason why we can't. You just got to try hard and be aware that it's going to take time and effort. You can't half-ass it,
Yeah.
And there's no reason to be a nostalgia act when you're creating such fresh-sounding modern-day music that still has a classic edge to it. So when you're a band when you have the songs that you do, like on this record, it's like you don't need to depend on the gold. No. You can depend on the new stuff, and people will show up.
Well, I'll tell you this real quick before he answers. When you think nostalgia act or heritage act, I think back to Aerosmith. I think back to Cheap Trick that's on your shirt and stuff. But I don't think that of Accept. That doesn't come to my mind because no, his. It doesn't come to my mind because I don't see Accept as a nostalgia act, because they haven't been. You know, you look at Stalingrad, Blood of Nations, Too Mean to Die. They're moving forward. They are a band that constantly moves forward. And Wolf, the credit goes to you, because other bands they lay Dying down. They say, just give me your money and I'll play your 10 songs, you know. And you guys don't do that. So kudos for staying relevant and staying fresh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I'm also doing it because I think it's more fun, to be honest. I'm not doing it for a higher purpose or anything because I'm better than everybody. I mean, everybody needs to decide what they do in their life and how to do their career. But to me, it's almost more fun to do what we're doing. You know, I don't know. And I'm not afraid of a lot of things. It's just mediocrity that kind of scares me to death. And if I have the feeling that something that's not quite right and we're just doing it to get by, or I don't know, it scares me to death more than anything, you know, honestly.
Well, I see it as courageous, because it's so easy to go back and do, like you said, a 20th anniversary. Just, screw it, just do a 20th anniversary. Like, you're not calling it in. You're doing the work.
Yeah.
And I respect people who do the work. Yeah, you are. Mark.
Speaking of calling it in.
Yeah, we got to go.
I got to tune out.
Yeah.
Me too, actually. Thank you, Wolf. Always a pleasure. And as we say in Montreal, merci.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Wolf. It was great to meet you. Let's do this again soon.
Cheers.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Stay metal. Rock on.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.